Welcome to the Female VC Lab podcast. Pratibha, thank you
Yes,
so much for joining us. In one line, can you give me your name, your title, and the name of your fund?
sure. Hi, Barbara. My name is Pratibha Vuppuluri. I head up investments at Unreasonable Collective.
Thank you so much. So tell me a little bit about what inspired you to become a venture capitalist or an investor.
Yeah, I came to the United States from India 20 years ago with a dream to really join Wall Street. And so I started my career at Wall Street and focused really in capital raising for the last 20 years. And all the while, so the fuel capital can really play a role in providing traction and the support that companies have. And the last 4 years, I was blessed to be exposed to the world of doing well and doing good, and really looking at companies that are having sustainable technologies at the core of their business model. And that, while passing those kind of deals to VC funds, I started to realize it was those kind of companies I wanted to be backing and investing myself. And that got me excited to build out this new model, Unreasonable Collective, whereby it's a pledge fund and people like me, individual investors can be investing through manager-led syndicates. So that's gotten me excited about investing and directly aligning myself with companies that are doing well and doing good in the world.
Wonderful. So tell me a little bit about your investment thesis and what's the motivation around your thesis?
Sure. So the Unreasonable Collective essentially is as I mentioned to you, is a pledge fund. It's a manager-led syndicate where we have individual investors across the spectrum, family offices, individuals, high net worths, and and if you have to humanize this demographic, the LP base runs the gamut between C-suite professionals all the way to royalty. Some, princess and are part of our network. But the underlying thesis for us has been D&I. So 50% of our investor base we have a mandate that 50% of our investor base has to be people and women of color and members from the underrepresented communities, because it's not a pipeline issue in my mind, it's a seat at the table. And for us, the core pillar for us is to infuse inclusivity as part of our investor club. And what that meant is, when we are thinking about investment thesis, naturally, the likeness begets likeness. It's the idea that if you have a diverse member base on the investor table, you are likely to be backing companies that are also run by diverse founders. And that has been true to our thesis. So we look at companies that are within the climate and future of work arena. And our focus and our eligibility is that if the round is being cornered by an institutional group, we showcase the deals to our investor network and syndicate deals. Given it is a diverse investor base, the beauty about it is that our first 5 investments, 4 out of 5 of them were gender and racially diverse founders.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. So tell me a little bit about what you're currently learning or listening to or reading these days.
Gosh, quite a bit, though I have a 2-year-old baby boy, so there isn't much I can be reading, but I'm definitely listening. My favorite podcasts are actually Exchanges at Goldman Sachs. I'm in love with the way they really highlight on a weekly basis and a bi-weekly basis just the trends that we're seeing in the market and how the world of capital markets is evolving in this new normal that we're facing. Right. I'm also an avid listener to Impact Alpha, which is more often a podcast focused on impact investing and something which is where I'm aligned in. And in terms of reading, I'm a big fan of Tom Rand's book. It's called Case for Climate Capitalism. Economic Solutions for Planet in Crisis, where Rand argues what I'm a big fan of, which is capitalism is a main driving force behind all of us being able to combat the climate crisis that we are facing, let's face it, and really looks at how technology can play a role in helping us navigate the new normal.
That's very interesting. Sounds like a very interesting book.
Yeah, no, it is. It really takes a centrist view more instead of more of an extreme angle where we are optimistic about how technology can play a role and be a force for good, and how capital can be the fuel to be able to support that traction. And in that way, create the right market solutions to look at some of the challenges we'll be facing.
Sounds great. So bonus question that everyone gets. In 2 years, when we're in 2 years, and hopefully we'll speak before 2 years, but how do you see venture capital evolving within the next 2 to 3 years?
Sure. I see venture capital really taking on new avatars, if you will. The model which we are pursuing at Unreasonable, which is this idea of bringing together individual investors with D&I lens to it, is just what we would consider the next few years VC world to adopt and to become more diverse in nature, and to be able to have operator networks as a way for operators across the spectrum and across the ecosystem to deploy capital, and not just have it just for the finance professionals. So to me, D&I is a big focus. And I think over the next 2 or 5 years, I would hope that we sit up and change the narrative around gender and racial diversity in the financing space.
I think what you're doing is really a powerful thing, trying to close there are 2 gaps. There's the gap of the funding between the companies and the kind of the GPs, LPs, and then there's the gap of the GPs and LP pool. So it's like we're aligned in that. We're trying to also, that's in our thesis, trying to close some of these gaps. How do you close the gaps of these underserved, underrepresented? And even still, if you're looking at all the things that have come out of what's been happening, still underserved, underrepresented women are still less funded than most other people. And that's still shocking to me.
The numbers are staggering. It almost feels like we are back in the 12th century when we think about the fact that 96% of fund managers within the ecosystem are your traditional white guys, and only 4% are women. And that then translates down to the founder level, where, likeness begets likeness. So in order for us to change the narrative and change the face of what venture capital will be over the next few years, we need to get more diverse set of investors on the other side of the table, so that they can start commanding capital flows into founders with merit, irrespective of race, color, ethnicity, and background. And that's the beauty about bringing a diverse set at the table and having them dictate what the years to come looks like.
Yeah, but I agree with you. It has to happen at the founder level.
Yes.
And they have to have some good exits as well. And then they have to be, I don't want to say retrained, but think about how they're going to then contribute back into the ecosystem.
Exactly. What's the circle look like? And that's, we're such nascent stages, Barbara. I'm always surprised. We're still at the 0.01% needle shift, if you will. And we just have a lot of work ahead of us. But that's the beauty of it. And that's what gets me going every day.
That's wonderful. So how do people get into contact with you?
I am available at Pratibha at unreasonablegroup.com. You can always connect with me on LinkedIn. I have a remarkably long name. So just say, if you type in Pratibha, I'm pretty sure I show up, Pratibha. And I'm also available on Twitter at Impact Chat.
Thank you so much, Pratibha, from the Unreasonable Group, for being my guest on the Female VC Lab podcast.
Thanks, Barbara. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.